The protests at peak in Brazil this past June were proof that its people want a new way of governing and living. As the approval rating of President Dilma Rousseff inched slightly upward this month, the road ahead is still lined with challenges. There is one man who has a history of overcoming challenges and conveying the wishes of the people to the country's political powers. He also happens to be a key advisor in the president's inner circle. His name is Marco Aurelio Garcia, and among other things, he is one of the founders of the nation's Workers' Party. Garcia doesn't normally grant interviews to the press, but he agreed to speak with our correspondent Stephen Gibbs about the country's political predicament and the state of the nation.
When the last two Brazilian presidents have wanted advice, they've usually turned to this man. Marco Aurelio Garcia, often described as a leftist idealist, has had unique access to both the current president, Dilma Rousseff, and her predecessor, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the former shoeshiner turned union leader, whom Garcia helped mentor. We met on the sidelines of the Forum of Sao Paulo, a get-together of all the major left-wing parties in this region. Marco Garcia is a popular figure at gatherings like this, as he's seen as one of the architects of the rise of the Latin American left. I began by asking him whether he likes that description.
I always say Brazil didn't have any influence in the transformation, except one thing. In various countries, they use Lula's arrival like a type of scarecrow. Look at this man, this leftist, this ignorant worker. If he becomes president, he will destroy the country. Watch out, that could happen here. As it didn't happen, the election of Lula brought about a reverse situation. Brazil experienced an extraordinary development. So instead, the election of Lula was like a vaccine for others, a show that it was possible in other countries.
Lula's Workers' Party, which Garcia helped found, has now been in power for 10 years. Some critics suggest it's sold out and is now firmly part of the same political establishment that it once opposed. That has been one of the messages of the widespread protests that have rocked Brazil in the last months. Do you think that people within your party have kind of lost touch with the base, the people that originally supported them? Do you think that there is a risk that your party has become part of the establishment?
Yes, of course. If a party is in government, whether it likes it or not, it has become part of the establishment. I think this protest had a strong merit, and the government and the party recognizes this, unlike what is happening in other parts of the world, where the only answer of the government has been repression. Here, when there was repression, it was isolated and condemned by the central government.
After 20 years without significant protests, they now have become a daily occurrence in Brazil. This one was taking place outside the hotel while we were having our conversation.
While we are speaking here, there is a group of the extreme right which is protesting against the forum. Last night, there was a group of the extreme left which was protesting. What can I say? Demonstrations of the right, the left. They have one thing in common. People went out to the streets.
Does this worry you? Does this worry the government?
Yes, this is a problem for the government, yes. But it is a problem of the system, and of the system of representation. I think these protests were a wake-up call for the Workers' Party and the government and the political institutions. No one can say they are victors in the light of these demonstrations, apart from democracy, which is strengthened.
You've had the unique position of being the advisor to two consecutive presidents at a time when Brazil is having far more impact on the world stage. But a lot of people say about Brazil's foreign policy, they don't quite know what it is, that it seems to be a country that wants to be friendly to everyone rather than making its case really forceful. I'm sure you've heard that that criticism of Brazilian foreign policy. How do you react to it?
Yo creo que no es bueno que nosotros tengamos enemigos.
I think it is good that we don't have enemies. Brazil doesn't want to only be involved with its neighbors. Often some commentators try to suggest we are this region's policemen. We are not. We don't just want to be open towards Africa as a result of our historic links. We want to participate in the big international affairs. If our ambition is to have a place on the Permanent Security Council of the UN, we need to demonstrate our capacity for this. If you are interviewing me, it is because Brazil now has a certain importance in the world over the last 10 years. Isn't that true? Before, it didn't. It was a big country with football, etc. Now it has a certain weight.
Antes no tenía.
Brazil's relations with the United States have been complicated in recent weeks following the revelation from former National Security Agency employee Edward Snowden that Brazilian internet traffic has been targeted by US spies without Brazil's consent. When you first heard about these, what was your reaction? Were you surprised, annoyed?
Yo no sé si de sorpresa.
I am not sure if it came as a surprise. Obviously, it was always possible to imagine that in the military security machine that is the United States, this was possible.
Como son los Estados Unidos, eso pudiera ocurrir.
What many here see as the threat of a domineering United States is what lies behind one dream of this forum, namely far closer integration within Latin America. But it remains an unfulfilled dream. Never has Latin America managed to unite politically or economically on anything like the scale of, say, the European Union. In June, in what some saw as a sign of division, the less left-leaning countries of the region, Chile, Colombia, Mexico and Peru, established the Pacific Alliance, a rival union to Mercosur, which is championed by Brazil.
Yo siempre digo que no me quita el sueño.
I always say I don't lose sleep over the Pacific Alliance. First of all, there hasn't been a significant inauguration from a commercial perspective. The trade barriers between the four countries were so low that there isn't much more to lower. Okay, a few methods of integration, that's fine, no problem. But from a business or economic point of view, the Pacific Alliance is very much inferior to Mercosur. One of the arguments which they use doesn't make sense. Relations with China. We have fantastic relations with China. China is our main trading partner, and we don't need to be part of the Pacific Alliance. Argentina is increasing its relations with China, Venezuela the same, Paraguay too. It has a problem because its diplomatic relations are with Taiwan, but from a commercial point of view, things are going very well. So this argument does not make sense.
Maybe not, but there are signs that the movement Marco Garcia set up is in need of renewal. The main protagonist of the left in Latin America, Hugo Chavez, died earlier this year. Perhaps Bolivia's President Evo Morales, who received an enthusiastic welcome when he attended the forum, will establish himself as the movement's new leader. Marco Garcia gives the impression that such decisions should be left to a younger generation. He's hinting at an imminent retirement to write a book about the role he played in transforming this region's political landscape.